Hello, this is Lorena, and I'm back with another Duel Links video. In this video, I will be going around massacring the standard duelist, and then I will get back to the raid event. Yeah, I'll get back to the raid event. And now, the last video was very serious because of the fact that I feel so much despair and hopelessness in regards to my family situation. But there's actually another problem and another reason that I feel like this. I feel like I don't really have a lot of physical friends that understand what I'm doing. Like, I can, like, the communities where I feel comfortable expressing myself, they aren't the best communities for the kinds of things that I experience. Or at least the kinds of things that I like. My experiences are appropriate in certain communities, but not necessarily my hobbies, and not necessarily my interests. And it's just, it kind of bothers me, because I don't have a lot of friends that can meet me in both directions. They cannot meet me in the spiritual department or the other departments. It's usually one or the other. I don't have many friends that can meet me in both directions, which is, it kind of frustrates me because I want to have someone that I can talk about this shit with. But if no one knows what I'm talking about, then there's a gap in our friendship. It's difficult to actually, it's difficult to actually do certain things when I know that someone just isn't going to understand. Now, I'm fighting this raid boss, by the way, but not everyone knows who Aporia is. And very few people in the communities where I'm most comfortable know anything about this card game or any of its characters. Now, I'm going to be honest here. Where I'm most comfortable does not necessarily have to mean that I bring up these other interests and hobbies of mine. It is important for me to talk about certain things, but they don't all have to be in these communities where I feel most comfortable. However, there is a problem. That is the case, true. But that doesn't actually fix everything. And I will explain why. Because even though that is the case, that doesn't fix where the intersection is. There's an intersection between my hobbies, my interests, and my spiritual path. A lot of people are not familiar with the spiritual path that I am on, because most people do not actually believe in the things that I do. And the hard part comes in because they don't it's not necessarily about them not believing what I'm experiencing. It's just they don't have any experience with it. But then when I go over to the spiritual side of things, they don't necessarily know what I'm experiencing either, because they haven't experienced it for themselves. And the worst part about that is, well, they haven't experienced this kind of stuff, so they don't know the kinds of people that I interact with, or they don't know where some of the overlap is, because they can't fully understand it. I can talk about it, and I can try my best to explain where the gaps in understanding are, but that doesn't necessarily fix everything. That doesn't suddenly mean that what I'm experiencing is understanding. people may not understand what I'm experiencing ever. And the fact that I don't have anywhere to go with these kinds of shit, with these kinds of experiences, that's definitely leaving its mark. And as painful as that is, it's just what it is for me, honestly. I know that I don't get to pick everything. I know that some people are just... I know that people have needs as a minor, and I do have to respect those needs, but when I really think about it, it's true. There are needs that I do not need because I can fulfill them on my own. And when you're a minor, you do have some level of dependence on someone that can fulfill those needs for you, because you don't necessarily have what you do when you are an adult. There are times when being a minor outright sucks. But then I think about it and I'm just like, there are things I didn't get when I was a minor to begin with. I was silent. I was withdrawn. I didn't communicate and I didn't say what I really wanted to. Because I was afraid. I was afraid of rejection. And a lot of things about my past, there are things I don't fully understand because of that silence. Because I never said anything. And if I had said something, maybe I wouldn't be in this situation. But fact is, my sister and I are taking different approaches to how we respond to our trauma. She's acting out and taking it out on everyone else. I withdrew and took it out on myself instead. I stopped talking to people. I took on a different way of coping with my experiences. And they weren't necessarily healthy. But no one actually fully knew what I was experiencing. Because of the fact that I was so silent about everything. I know that as a minor, you have needs that an adult fulfills. Like, there are things that my sister needs that I can deal with that myself without needing that level of dependence on my parents to provide those things for me. However, there is a complicated situation that does arise when, yes, you do not have that dependence, but you do have issues that you are still healing from. I've got issues that I am healing from. I've got a lot of things in my childhood that continue to plague me. They continue to damage me. And there isn't much that I can do about it. But if there's anything that I can do something about, I can do something, I guess, I don't know. I wanted to do some things that I thought I'd never be able to. I don't know where I'm going with this. You know, this entire turbo duel has been a complete disaster. I've been half focused on that, so that's probably where I lost my train of thought. I've been through so much that even as an adult nearing her 30s, there's still shit for me to deal with. Like, I'm an adult, but that does not mean that my baggage has been healed. That does not mean that I just say, to hell with all family connections. No. No one else does that. Seriously. It's been a ride. it's been very difficult. Very difficult. Because I know that there are things that my sister needs that can only be provided by her guardian and legal parent, which is our mother. She depends on her. So that's not something that I can control. And that is something that is very easily understood. That she's a minor and her needs do in fact come before mine. Because as an adult, I have needs that I can fulfill myself. But then we get to the part where my childhood wasn't normal. My childhood left me with experiences that I'm still healing from right now, as we speak. Because my childhood was so emotional and such. There was a lot of things about my childhood that weren't normal. That means I am not a normal adult. This means that even though there are needs that I can provide for myself, there are needs that I felt I did not get. There are needs I felt were not met when I was a child. I do not necessarily know what those needs were, but I can pretty much gather that after certain things happened to me, I just didn't voice a lot of my needs, and I tried to fulfill them myself. I went to the internet to get certain needs met. I went to the internet to learn, to grow, to mature. I went to the internet to nurture things that I couldn't nurture. I went to the internet for connections that were later lost. I went to the internet believing it could do something for me that it absolutely couldn't. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like I've got that. I don't feel like I have much of a family anymore. I'm still in contact with my parents, yes, but I can't interact with my aunt the same way I used to. I can't interact with much of my family the way that I used to be able to. And that's going to haunt me for a very, very long time. I'm not sure if I will ever recover from this damage. I'm not sure that I will ever be able to accept what has been going on for the past years. These past few years have been very difficult for me. And now, I do admit that in some ways I have grown and I have improved as a person. But we do have to acknowledge that there are still wounds there, that I'm still not fully healed. And because I am still not fully healed, well, this means there are things about me that they slip through the cracks. You see the weaknesses that are still there. You feel the pain that hasn't left me. You hear the baggage and the pain and suffering that I have experienced. You hear things that you may not have needed to if my past was more, well, if I dealt with things earlier. I was supportive at first of what my mom did, but I did not actually remember that sometimes what you want, you really should not get. I didn't realize that things would be like this. I didn't realize that. And I really made a mistake there because I could have actually displayed some hesitance to actually support her. I supported my mom completely. I should have shown some skepticism to the idea, but I didn't. I didn't know how bad things would be. I didn't know that orphanages could be so tough, so traumatizing to live in. I didn't realize anything. And now I pay the price for that because I didn't actually express that things may actually be worse than anyone could imagine. I didn't know. But when I did have an understanding that the person that my mom was adopting could in fact have issues, I didn't expect that one of those issues would be a spoiled brat attitude. Like, I never expected this because my mom was adopting from a country that was poor. I expected that the issues would be more from the place of, I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. Whatever it was that I was expecting, that's clearly not reality. I just know that my sister was in a worse position before she came here. I know that there are things about her past that slipped through the cracks. We know she's been through shit because she treats us like shit. So what that means is she's seen shit. She's been through shit. And she may not know that, but because of how she treats us, she voices that she has indeed seen and been through a lot of shit. But she doesn't see how she's treating us like that. She sees what she wants to see. And she's not conscious of her trauma and her baggage. She doesn't realize there's anything to be conscious of. Because to her, what she's saying and feeling, that's all true. That's all true. And while I understand that she's not in a place of being able to actually confront those inner demons, I do feel like there's a toll to be taken when you're the one shouldering the hardest of the hardest. Like, my parents have been through some shit. My brother has been through some shit. I mean, mainly because of this entire situation, but he's definitely been through some shit now that he's had to endure a toxic sibling relationship. And, you know, I was not the one that caused this. I hated my brother for a long time. Like, I know hatred because I used to hate him. But then I got over that as things improved. However, I don't really know if things will improve here. Because my sister is doing things. She is doing things. She's not innocent. My brother was probably just the victim of unfortunate circumstances. And he didn't have anything to do with the grudge that later formed. But my sister kind of, she did things that did result in this divide. She caused this. I cannot talk to her about it because she isn't going to respond in a way that's healthy. She will take it out on me as though I am doing things that I'm not trying to do. She does not see her behavior as inappropriate. And because she doesn't, I have to deal with the fallout of everything going on around me. I have to deal with everything from a place where I'm pretty much the one worst affected by it all. Like, my mom has to raise her, but even she has said that I seem to be the one worst affected by it. She's said herself that she thinks that I'm more affected by any of this than anyone else in the family. And to hear even that from her, the person raising this child, that really says a lot. But it's more than just that to me. There's more than just that. It's not just the fact that I'm the only one mainly affected by this. It's the fact that because I don't really have any options. My dad rides a motorcycle. He can go out if he needs to and just forget about all of this. My brother moved out. My mom had an upbringing that helps her cope with this. What do I have? I have connections that I can't really talk about in public spaces because no one really understands those connections. They don't understand the kind of support that I do have. As far as they are concerned, I don't really have anything. But that is actually far from true. There are things that I have at my disposal that most people just don't. I have connections that not everyone does. But what made that possible? All of that pain, all of that suffering, all of those hardships and that isolation. It made all of this possible. But if we're being honest here, I mean, I don't know if my plurality would have... I don't know. Maybe I would have been plural regardless of my circumstances. I really do not know. Because when I think about it, I'm a writer and a lot of my plurality came from that. So, is it just pain? Or is this just a coincidence? I don't know. In any case, there is a lot of things that I have that not everyone does. And I do have more support than I let on, but I need physical, plain support. I need support that people can see. Support that exists in front of my face that I can see. I need support from people that people will not just say don't exist. The support that I have now, people can just wave it away as some fantasy or delusion. They can say that what I've got isn't real. But they are real. All of my experiences are real. Or they're legit. Just because people here and there don't believe that doesn't change the support that I do have. I just can't talk about it because people won't believe me. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I will see you guys in my next one.